Sabi ng waiter na rin dito. Medyo kaya ko na rin wala akong pinapasok ng office. Alisin mo ako. Pwede na kasi. Pa rin yung may side.
May parang phone pa.
Kinukuha kasi sa Please check if you have the measurement errors in measurements. Alright, so with this last measures and frequency, we discussed measures of application. Then now we're going to talk about these measurements and errors in measurements. So we discussed the common sources of errors, the measures to assess the validity of measurement, and given a scenario, you should be able to compute and interpret validity measures. Alright, so these are the common sources of errors in measurements. Ano bang measurement yung ginagawa natin? Whether a factor is present or absent, right? Whether disease is present or absent. Generally, now, one of the possible sources of error would be the source of the information. So, sino ito? You're doing epidemiology study, mga tao ito, right? You're studying participants. So, bakit magkakaroon ng errors doon? Ano example ng error ng, like you are asking them if they smoke or you ask them if they have other variables that are interesting. Occupational medicine. Or you want to assess the level of exposure to a certain chemical used in the factory. Or whether they are exposed to a certain level of noise in the workplace. So, paano natin malalaman yung positive sila o negative sila? So, you would either ask them directly. So, that's going to be a self-report. So, anong possible errors in self-report? Accurate? Relative to records, for instance. Because the source of the information in epidemiology studies would be the respondents, the participants of the study themselves, or you can make use of the existing records. So, the participants are asked directly to be able to find out whether they have the exposure or they do not have the exposure, whether they have the outcome or not. Self-reported. Okay, let's say for example, hypertension. Tatanong mo siya, hypertension sa ba? Is that reliable? No, because there are instances where the person is not aware that he's actually hypertensive. Kung hindi naman siya regularly nagpapabili or nagpapacheck up. So, you may misclassify the person as without hypertension when in fact the person has hypertension, right? So, that's one. What would be another situation? Possibly misclassified siya as literally a factor. At alam mo kung yung noise level na is masyado na bang malakas? There's a subjectivity there, right? Sa isa, malakas na. Sa isa, hindi mo siya iritado. Okay? Sa bahay namin, mayroong kolte sa likod. Titilaot yung manok. At hindi sa akin, hindi naman magkapit-bahay ko, nag-install ko siya, hindi naman daw. So, ayaw ko na mag-complain kasi ako na naman pala nag-install mo sa tilaot ng manok. Okay, so subjectivity. It's also possible that they do not want to disclose, especially if these are sensitive matters. No? Tanungin mo, for example, magkano sila doon mo, monthly income. Hindi naman nakakatuwa ito. How often do you have sex? Sasabi ba na totoo yan? Dadamihan niya, para sabihin ay hindi, di ba? Kasi nakasya na sa tubig, kahit pala ako. Ayaw mo yung sabihin, ayaw mo lalabas dun sa isang interviewer na hindi sila magdadano. Di ba? So, if you have yung bagay, there are so many possible sources of error if the source of the information is the respondent. By the way, when the data is obtained directly from the study participant, that's called primary data. The other source would be records. Yung records, ang tawag sa data obtained from existing records ay secondary data. So, importante yung primary secondary data, especially ang yung proposal nila daan sa ethics committee. Okay? Yung secondary data kasi pwedeng i-anonymize yun. Pwedeng kukunin yung information and then you ask the custodian of the records, remove the names. Medyo so there is some problema natin doon. Pero records will not be complete. It may not contain the information that you need. So you say, I get the record from smoking, I simply smoking from the chart. Patient chart, so employment records. Nandun ba yun? You as clinicians, do you routinely collect information to whether they smoke or not? Kasama ba yun sa subjective, so lahat ng patient records ay merong information kung nag-smoke hindi. So kung wala doon, it's either hindi natanong or hindi siya naninigarilyo, right? So access to that information does not necessarily mean that the person is not a smoker. I don't know if you can make that assumption na wala din sa record, wala. Because as doctors, kung tinanong niya, wala, lalagay niya, wala, diba? So those are some of the sources of the errors. Okay, participant error, report problems, and willingness to disclose information as social desirability. Bakit kayo yung sagot kung ano yung sa tingin mo expected ng mga tao? I just go through this. Interactive response naman, with respect to getting information directly from the participants is baka na-modify sila sa behavior of the person asking the questions. Tanong ng tanong, ang sagot ko. O medyo nag-iiba yung facial expression in the dalawang decision. Hindi tama. Tapos, if they are also aware that they are being asked these particular questions, because these questions are going to lead to the diagnosis of a certain disease, for example, mag-iiba din yung kanilang sagot. Or, simply, meron variability. Like, for example, blood pressure measurement. Di ba kaya meron kayong sa research, in your practice, meron kayong tinanong ng sandali, di ba? Ilang minuto. Pero when you're doing epidemiology study, nakalagay talaga yung sa protocol na yan. Paupuin, ilang minutes, tapos ilang beses magkuha ng blood pressure. Because they can be sources of errors. Okay, but if you make use of records naman, yun ang sabi ko kanina, incomplete data. For example, if you use the death certificate to determine the cause of death of the person, you think the death certificate is complete. What are the information in the cause of death section of the death certificate?
Underlying cause.
Immediate cause,
Immediate cause, underlying.
antecedent cause, and underlying cause. So, if you are interested in what caused the chain of events that led to death, underlying na, di ba? Ilang porsyento sa inyo naglalagay ng underlying cause of death certificate? Ma'am, yes? Okay. I did a study many years ago, one of my first research projects. Kasi kung medical student nag-present ng community diagnosis, kung ano-anong leading causes of death, nag-present ko dahil yung cause of death ng fever. Ano cause of death ng fever? So parang, ganito ang data ng municipal or city office, regional office, or age. So I did a study to find out what percent of that certificates of information on the underlying cause. Kasi yun yung kailangan natin for determining effectiveness of public health programs and intervention. Hindi natin malaman na nag-cardiac arrest siya. Kasi sa code of dying, di ba? Hindi siya yung cause talaga. So for epidemiology purposes, underlying cause yung gusto natin. Hindi naman yung immediate cause. So I found out that only 19% have information on the underlying cause of death. Of this 19%, 12% lang ang acceptable. Acceptable meaning to say, totoo. Underlying cause ng shock, then on arrival, cardiac arrest, respiratory arrest, these are moods of tayo. Hindi man useful yun. Parang lahat naman tayo nag-a-arrest kung hindi lang puso. Mga tayo. So, ganun ako lang information. You don't need to talk about the death certificate, which is mandated by law. Date of death. Mas compared to cause of death, meron siguro information. Prevalence of disease, can you get that from hospital records? Sabi natin, prevalence. Ilan ang may sakit sa lahat ng examine natin. So you have to have a defined population. So again, hindi naman lahat ng may sakit ay pumunta sa hospital. So may ibang may sakit, hindi nag-avail ng services ng hospital, o hindi naka-admit ng hospital, na posibleng they fit the definition of the study population, hindi rin siya. And that's why we usually do not do prevalence surveys of diseases using hospital records, except for most of infection. So there are problems with completeness of records, inaccuracies of information. Aside from the study participant, the respondent, and record, pwede din natin gawin yung observation. Tingnan natin, especially kung behavior siya. Pero ano mga problema if you are making observations about behaviors? Usually check this in. Ano mangyayari? Anong possible problem na ino-observe ng isang tao? If they are aware that they are being observed, then they modify their behavior. So, several reasons why this condition with application to what I mentioned ng facilities. Kasi at that time, parang complain ay kulang kami sa tao sa mga field facilities. So, nag-time and motion. Kung alam ng mga staff ng facility na they are being observed, what they're doing from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, pwede papasok yan ang alas 8. Tapos magtatrabaho yan, hindi yan magtitindahan ng ano, or mag-attend na naglalako na gano'n, diba? So gagawin nila what is expected of them. So it is a concealed observation. Hindi nila alam that you were actually doing a time of motion. Ano oras dumating, kala isa sa kanila, anong ginagawa nila? So we divide it up. It is in direct patient care, na-assume namin kung may pasyente, okay? Or gumagawa ng dito, or administrative, or downtime. Nunod ng TV, nagkakausap sila ng mga paninda, or nagkikwentuhan, that's downtime. So meron kami dito. Kung alam nila na gano'n ang ginagawa, hindi sila. Hindi na ginagawa ng oras na umuwi. Okay, so, nagko-compute kami ng ilang oras na nila. Kung gagawin mo yan, alam nila, you will not be able to get accuracy. Ano doon kung nangyayari? Is it ethical? Siyempre, we consulted the National Ethical Guidelines. If it's a public place, it's not unethical. Huwag na namin sila sundan ng sila ng CR. Okay? And then, hindi namin ibibilang yung break time. The morning break time sa lunch break time sa afternoon. Again, akala natin ganun siya kadali, pero decision din natin, are we getting the accurate information? Legally, tinanong ko rin yung klase, is a lawyer. Sabi mo, okay naman, hindi legal. Basta hindi dahil the public. So, shielded ako legal and ethical to do the research. And you'll be surprised, ang findings ay 68% of the time of these healthcare providers spend on administrative work. Nag-fundraising, nag-meeting sa Manila, may seminar, more than half of their time, administrative. Ang ibang staff nagagawa ng report, nagagawa ng report. So parang, kailangan ba natin ang healthcare worker to do the reports? Kaya doon, as a result of that, lumabas yung tinatawag na ng public health yung tawag mo, nag-create ng plantilla na for every facility or office, meron isa na ayun ang gagawin niya. So, we had some public graduates na nag-create. Huwag na lang si doktor ang gagawa ng mga reports na yun. Huwag na si nurse, si public health specialist na lang. So sources of measurement errors. Okay, and then, sinabi sa inyo na ano yung instrument that you're going to use for collecting data. Tatlo lang yan. Questionnaire, either it's self-administered or it is used as a guide by the interviewer. The questions are read out, and then you have the respondent giving the answer, and then the data collector just on the answer. Or if your source of data is records review, then your instrument is called an abstraction form. You abstract the information. If your method of data collection is like observation, then you have the observation guide, which can be a checklist. An example of which is a checklist. So you can have errors from the use of these different instruments. So, a mechanical instrument issue with calibration, or you may be using instruments that are not valid and reliable. You discuss validity and reliability and so on. Or there may be errors in classifying people with respect to presence or absence of to the factor or presence or absence of validity. When you are using what we call an index score. For example, the health literacy that I mentioned earlier, it's a 47-item questionnaire, and based on the scores, we label a person as adequate or limited. Or quality of life. It's a series of questions. And based, kaya tawag natin ng index score. Yung composite ng lahat ng mga criteria, hindi the basis for classifying the person as with exposure, without exposure, with disease, or without disease. So pagka nagka-problema yung pag-analytical technique mo to come up with that index score, then you will likely misclassify people, incorrectly label them as disease, etc. So what do we mean by valid and reliable instrument? So let's assume we use the target shooting to predict target shooting dartboard to explain the concept. Kung sinabi natin true value, that means to hit the bullseye. Now, when you hit the bullseye, that means that you have a valid measurement. If the measurement you're interested in is a certain level, biochemical level, and you hit the true value, then you have a valid instrument. How do you know that? You have to compare it against what we call gold standard. You cannot assess validity without comparing your data with data that you have been collected. Have you used a gold standard of measurement? Yung gold standard, for example, natin ngayon ng cancer. Lung cancer, IFC. So, to compute for validity, we have to check our findings using this instrument against the gold standard. Reliability naman, on the other hand, is if you repeatedly make measurements on the same specimen, or you repeatedly ask the same question, you get the same answer, then you have a reliable instrument. So, the one on the left is valid and reliable. The one in the middle is not valid, but it is reliable. Reliability is consistency. Inconsistency or repeatability. Inulit-ulit mo, natimbang ka, pareho-pareho ang measurement. Pero may deviation pa rin, sila pa rin, di ba? Systematically to the same measurement, with the same weight, pero hindi naman tama. The one on the right is an illustration of an instrument that is not valid and not reliable. It doesn't hit the bullseye. Tapos paulit-ulit mong gawin yung measurement, iba-iba din ang values niya. So what we want is an instrument that is valid and reliable. So when you're doing research and you're making use of an instrument, you have to report the validity measure and the reliability measure. You have to convince the readers that you use an instrument that accurately reflects the truth. Okay, so there are different measures of validity, so different ways to validate it. You have base validity, content validity, construct validity, and criterion validity. What I'm going to discuss will be the criterion validity. Kasi isang course din yung validation ng instrument. So criterion validity is the type of validity research which assesses the extent to which a particular measurement corresponds to an external criterion or outcome that is considered to be the gold standard of the construct being measured. Construct of the variable, the study variable being measured. And there are two components of validity, the sensitivity and the specificity. Sensitivity, for example, of COVID-19 antibody-based rapid test is 60%. So what does that mean? Out of 100 people who truly have COVID-19, only 60 of them will test positive or will be correctly labeled as COVID-19 by the test. So they are the true positives, the sensitivity, true positives. So the rest of the COVID-19 individuals will be what? Kasi 60 lang daw. Okay, out of 100 with COVID, 60 will be picked up correctly as with COVID. What happens to the 40%? They will be incorrectly labeled by the test as, they will be labeled as negative. So they are false negatives because they have a disease. But according to the test, they do not have a disease. Right? So an individual who tests negative is referred to as a false negative. Now let's look at specificity. So if the specificity is 80%, what does that mean? Out of 100 people who are truly free of COVID, so out of 100 without the disease, specificity means the number that will be picked up as negative by the test. It is only 80. So out of 100, only 80 of them will test negative. So they are the true negatives. The remaining 20 will be incorrectly labeled as positive. So they are false positives by the same test. Okay. Now, you already have provided you the result of density and space. But how do you compute for that? Again, you use a contingency table, or you use a contingency table to cross-tabulate your measurement, the result of the measurement using your instrument, your research instrument, against the gold standard. So, you either report positive or negative classification of the participant based on your instrument that you're using. But there is the truth. So the gold standard represents the truth. Yung totoo. Okay? Short of asking that, does this person have the disease? We don't have a direct line to that, so we make use of the gold standard. Or it's the test that gives the most definitive result at the present time. So cell A represents those who tested positive and who truly have the disease. So when you do validation, by doing validation, an individual is subjected to both the gold standard and the instrument that you use for your research. Okay? So you would have two positives, people who tested positive based on your instrument and two that fell in. Well, would be those people who tested positive based on your instrument but who do not have the disease. Are you following? And then third thing would be, so we call them the false positive. Third thing would be the false negative. Why are they negative? Because according to your instrument, they do not have the disease, but they actually have the disease. Include any factor of the disease. And then you have the true negative based on your test and confirmed by the gold standard. Alright? So, saan ang gagaling yan? Doon din ang raw data niyan. So, you have your study participants, and you have the result of the measurement test using your instrument for your research, and the result using the gold standard. So, from that frequency distribution, from that table, you now pass the information into a contingency table. So you have the A plus C would be those with the disease, and the B plus C are those without the disease. A plus B would be the number of people who tested positive based on your test instrument, and C and D would be those who tested negative based on your test. So with that, we can now compute for the sensitivity. So sensitivity, by definition sabi natin, ilan sa may sakit ang mapipick up ng test. So the formula would be A divided by A plus C. What's A plus C? The total with the disease, right? Okay. The total with the disease, A plus C. And how many of those with the disease tested positive based on your research instrument? So it's A. So A over A plus C is your sensitivity. Multiply that by 100 and you have percent sensitivity. Specificity on the other hand, so actually we don't have to memorize the formula. If you know the meaning of sensitivity, it's the proportion of people with disease who have a positive test for the disease. So it gives the probability of testing positive if disease is truly present. Specificity, sabi natin, the proportion of people without the disease who are labeled correctly as negative by your test. So it's B over B plus 2. What's B plus C? That's the total without the disease. And how many among those without the disease, according to our gold standard, we correctly labeled as negative? That's your specificity. So it's B over B plus B. Okay, so far. So false positive would be the complement of your what? If you B plus is 100% and specificity is your true negative, then false positive would be a complement. So if the specificity is 100, the specificity is 80%, 100 minus 80% is 20. So the percent false positive would be 20. So it's the complement. You can use the formula for B over B plus B mentioned natin. But if you do not have the cross tabulation, but you have the report of the specificity, then you just get the complement. Okay. 1 minus percent specificity. False negative naman, ang sabi natin, it's a complement of, kailan tayo magkaka-false negative? if there are people who have the disease, but they were labeled as negative by your test. So it's a complement of sensitivity. So if you have a sensitivity of 90%, so meaning out of 100, 90 are correctly labeled as with the disease, what happens to the 10% who have the disease? They be labeled as false negative. So 1 minus your sensitivity. Now there are two other measures that you can compute based on the cross-tabulation of the result of the research instrument and the gold standard, the positive predictive value and the negative predictive value. So positive predictive value is the probability of disease given a positive test. So yung census testing was positive was negative, na ginagawa yan ng mga researchers, research. Yung positive predictive value and negative predictive value are useful to a healthcare worker like you as clinicians. So when a patient comes in with a positive test result, ikaw na request yung test na yun. So alam mo more or less anong performance ng test na yun. So if the test is 70%, so your patient comes back to you, they request mo na mag-test siya, and you know that this test is 70% sensitive, and 70%, if you know that this test is not giving a 100% sensitivity for the negative predictive value, then given a positive test, if your predictive value is 70%, what is the chance that this person in front of you who hands you a test result of positive truly has the disease? It is 70%. So that's positive predictive value given a positive test. If ng pasyente nyo, positive test, tanungin niyo ng pasyente nyo, Dok, anong chance na meron talaga ako? It's 70%. On the other hand, if your patient comes in with a negative result, and you know that the test you requested for this patient to undergo has a negative predictive value of, let's say, 60%, ano isasagot mo sa kanya? Talaga may wala akong sakit. What's the probability mo wala talaga? Hindi naman lahat ng pasyente ay epidemiologist or medicine. Okay, hindi naman kayo mag-challenge. But it's worth noting na huwag kayo mag-impose ng test. Na pagkalit sa pasyente, hindi naman pala useful. So if it's 60% the probability that the person does not have the disease is 60%, so may possibility pa rin na 40% na meron siya. So isang funny and common talaga yung KOH test for disease infection. So I have friends who are doctors, iba ano mga yun, KOH, negative, negative. This, hindi mo kayo kasi hindi naman yan. Ano, reliable. Pinag-test pa ako. Okay? So, mga ganun. Kaya naman yung sources ng pasyente nyo na you have to ask this patient to undergo a diagnosis test. Then you know that it does not perform well. When I say it does not perform well, hindi maganda ang kanyang predictive value, hindi maganda ang kanyang sensitivity. So ito, just an example. Kinupit ko na. You might want during your time to do the computation. How do we arrive at 95? How did we arrive at 95? How did we arrive at 95? Ano masabi natin sensitivity? Among those with the disease, wala ko. I will looks complete ako sa unit, distribute na. So dito lang nila kayo dito.
Akala ko sa akin na.
So how did we get 95%? How many have the disease? 200. How many were labeled correctly as positive by your test? 100. 190. So 190 over 200 is 95. So 100. How did we many get the specificity of 98? How many do not have the disease? 50. And how many of them were correctly labeled as negative? 49. So that means, yeah. So, false positive is the complement of your specificity. So 98 minus 100 minus 98 is equal to 2. Dapat magtunay yung specificity at saka yung false positive. Kasi yung false positive, sino false positive natin dito? 1, right? Yung 1, yung person, yung ABCD, yung B cell, may isang tao na ang sabi ng test mo positive siya, pero wala naman siya sakit. We believe the gold standard as the truth, okay? And then positive predictive value, how did you get 9.4? Among those who tested positive, ilan yung nag-test positive? How many tested positive? 191. 191. Ilan sa kanila na-pick up ng immune test as positive? 190. So 190 over 191 is 99.4%. And what's your negative predictive value? Ilan ang nag-test negative sa test nyo? Ilan sa kanila ang na-pick up who have the disease? Yes? 49. So 49 over 59 is 83%. Alright? So, yun yung ibig sabihin na validity of your data collection instrument. There are different ways to validate, and one is the criterion validation, where we use the gold standard of diagnosis as the truth. So, hindi tayo pwedeng mag-compute ng performance ng isang data collection instrument, sensitivity, etc. if we do not compare the result with a gold standard. Kailangan meron ka dito to table for you to be able to assess the performance of the data collection instrument. Alright, other examples, i-double-check nyo na lang during the quiz. Now, what are the factors affecting sensitivity and specificity? Number 1 is the cutoff. The cutoff point that we use. And this is a classification based on test values. For example, in diabetes, if you use a test, and you have blood glucose level, or if you want to determine health literacy, limited health literacy status, you have the test score, sabi ko sa inyo ng 37. So, meron kang cut-off score dyan. Paano ba itapat? Sino ang magiging limited health literacy? Doon sa 47. Anong score ang cut-off mo? The same with blood glucose. Anong score ang cut-off mo? Madali na lang kayo kasi alam niyo na as practitioners ka. Pero yung nag-gawa niya at nag-refer ng cut-off, gumawa din sila ng research. So, validating an instrument is a separate research by itself. So, the choice of the cut-off point or threshold for a test can affect sensitivity and specificity. And adjusting the cut-off can trade off sensitivity for specificity and character. Okay? Ganito kasi yung totoo niya. Yung mga people who are labeled as without the disease, at saka yung people who are labeled as negative at positive, may overlap ng kanilang values. Pwede yung may overlap. Hinat mo lang. So there will be people who have the disease, pero hinat-off mo siya dito at lumalabas siya na without the disease. So I think this is a better representation. Okay. Ano yung normal curve? When you plot the values of blood glucose, okay, let's look at the big delta, the curve, the big curve. Yung normal curve, yung delta. Yan yung values ng mga blood glucose ng mga walang diabetes. Tapos, yung small, the red curve, represents the values, test values nila, yung glucose value ng mga may diabetes. Alright? Tapos sabi natin, di ba, nag-research para mag-determine kung anong cut-off ang masasabi natin na may diabetes, ano yung cut-off ng blood glucose para masabing walang diabetes. Let's say ang nagiging cut-off based on statistical analysis ay doon sa value na 4.0. Okay, what is that overlap? Sa totoong buhay, meron talagang overlap ng values ng totoong may diabetes at ang totoong walang diabetes. So if you use the cut-off of 4, pag nilagay yung time na yun, ang mangyayari, yung sensitivity mo is only 8%. Kasi, some of those people who have diabetes will be labeled as, pag mababa sila sa 4, to the left of the cut-off, they will be labeled as negative without diabetes. Pero, meron talaga sila diabetes. Nagkataon lang na diabetes. So, ayan yun. When the cut-off score is 2, dito, ang specificity ay 0.94. Parang ang liit lang ng overlap. When the cut-off score is 0.8, when the cut-off score is 4, ang sensitivity is 80 and 80. Saan na ito yun? So, ang sensitivity niya is ito lang, itong area na ito. Itong mga tao na ito, mayroong diabetes. Because nasa left sila ng cut-off 4, malilabel sila as negative. But in fact, they have diabetes. So itong shape, itong area ng curve, ng red curve, this area na ito, nag-overlap yun. They will be late. Dito kasi kayo nag-cut-off. So hindi lahat ng merong diabetes will be labeled as such. Of the 4. Merong may diabetes na malilabel as without diabetes. Kung itipan nyo naman yung cut-off nyo sa 6, dito, mas malala siya. Kasi, kung may line na kayo dyan, all those to the left of 6 will be labeled as without diabetes, right? Halos kalahati. Pero, yung specificity niya, itong lahat ng walang sakit, ang area ng overlap dito lang.
Itong 2 pages, meron din po ba?
So, it's
Reprint.
27%.
Tutok
Yung
din po.
sumunod po.
Opo, yung next instance.
Ang message ko lang is, yung determination of cut-off, when we're doing research to determine the diagnostic test and the cut-off form, pero may effect yan, the sensitivity. Okay, so kung dyan, makikita nyo kung ilan ang may miss with my wrong, incorrectly classified. Yeah. You just look at the proportion to the left of the cut-off. So ito yung class natin, no? 6. So pag 6, ayan. Sa lahat ng may diabetes, ang malilabel lang as positive, yung nasa kanan ng cut-off, ay ito lang, halos kalahati lang noong may diabetes talaga. The rest will be labeled as negative. Okay? Just to give you an idea, para alam nyo, pagka researchers, alam nyo na meron talaga factor talaga ang performance of the instrument. And that's why a good research paper reports the performance of the instrument that they're using. Para yung babasa ng idea ng accuracy ng result. Okay? So, those lines represent the different factor points. So if you want to read up more about it, I'm provided here that link to that material. Hindi naman siya talaga, we don't really discuss in detail with context, but it's just for you to understand that there's such a thing as a cut-off as basis for, bakit na nalagay dito ng laboratory test, normal value, di ba? That's derived from this kind of study. So merong application, there's an analytical software na magpupunta siya ng census spacing at different cut of points. Ikaw ngayon ang mamimili. Mas maganda ba mas maraming false negative o mas maganda mas maraming false positive? So it's a decision that you have to make. What are the trade-offs? Kunwari sa COVID, ano ang mas maraming penalty sa public health? Kung mas maraming false positive o mas maraming false negative? Kasi while you want both sense and space to be high, doesn't happen. Meron talaga isa na mas mataas. Sense mas mataas kaysa space, space mas mataas kaysa sense. So ikaw ngayon mag-decide. Anong dapat ko na pipiliin ko? Yung ba mas maraming false positive o yung mas maraming false negative? To make a decision, tingnan nyo yung ano yung problema. Sa COVID, pag maraming false positive, makakwalan sila, isolate sila, or sila trabaho. On the other hand, kung gusto nyo naman maraming false negative, tuloy-tuloy ang spread ng disease kasi akala nila wala silang sakit. So they roam around, they mingle with people, they're confident wala silang sakit, pero tuloy-tuloy nila silang spread ng disease. So titingnan nyo yun. Or if you have a disease na wala namang gamot, ano ba sa HIV sa ngayon, wala pa rin recommend na gamot? Assuming wala, ano gusto natin? Matest mo silang positive, wala rin naman palang magagawa. It will just cause anxiety, mental anguish. So, isipin mo ay baka okay na maraming false negatives. Ayaw kasi natin naman maraming false positives kung may gamot na ibibigay ng maraming side effects. So, wala naman pala siya sakit. So, those are the considerations. Okay. So another factor that influences sensitivity and specificity is the prevalence of the disease. Kaya we were called out sa HLAB. Tagal-tagal namin recommend whether to endorse or not endorse certain diagnostic tests. Sabi namin, kasi napakagawa pa kami ng studies, prevalence study. And then sabi nung official ng government, ano pa kayo gagawa? Ginawa naman yung study na yan sa Taiwan, sa Korea. Ibang prevalence nila ibang prevalence natin. So, hindi pa ang ating sensi and speci. So, we have to know our local situation because the prevalence of the disease affects sensitivity and specificity. Okay, so in summary, we discussed the different sources of errors, the study participant, the data collectors, and student, measures to assess validity, yung simple na ginawa natin, sensi and speci, and then the other measures like post-vaccine, post-negative, predictive values, and then we presented some data, we did calculations, and we interpreted the different measures. Okay, are there any questions? Familiar na naman din kayo because you are prescribing or requesting diagnostic tests for patients. So, hopefully, ilan siya ka ang performance yung papagawa ninyo. Or when you do research, and you're going to embark on an epidemiologic study, you have to use an instrument that is valid. Yung konti yung classification, konti yung mga classifications.
Okay.
Ay, sige sir.
Hello ma'am. By how much percent po na disturb ng prevalence of disease ang sensi and specificity?
Hindi, wala siyang fixed number sir. We can compute for that as we get the data. But studies have shown that it is affected. It can be lowered or increased. Okay? Yes, sir.
In terms of validating or testing the accuracy of the values, what would be
So the decision on whether you want higher sensitivity or higher specificity depends on the effect of having more false negatives or more false positives. So kung mas masama na mas marami kang na-pick up na false positives, then you decide on, kasi false positive is the complement of your specificity. Diba? So, kung mas masama na marami kang false positives, anong gagawin mo? Tataasan mo yung specificity. Kung mas masama na maraming false negatives, tataasan mo yung sensitivity.
Can I give an example?
Sure. Go ahead, Doc.
Kasi I was thinking to test a certain device that measures levels of CO2 in certain place. What I need to do to be relevant, because I need to correlate the level of CO2 in a certain area and the
Correlated.
the number of respiratory diseases.
Okay.
So that I can check the ventilation.
Alright.
Ano po yung kailangan? Is it, do I need a device that has higher sensitivity or specificity?
Ano ba ang implication niyo, sir? Kung sinabi mo na ganito siya kataas, yung impact mas mababa siya. O sinabi mo mas mababa siya, yung impact mataas siya. Ano yung implications? Gaya mo namin ang mention ko, implications for instance ng false negative and false positive for a COVID test. Ano implication kung 90% ang inyong sensitivity, ibig sabihin 10% ang iyong false negative. Ano implication kung 10% ang false negative? Kumpara doon sa isang specificity na let's say 50%, ang false positive noon ay 50%. So, mas masama kung mas maraming false positive o mas masama kung mas maraming false negative. Yun yung basis. Ang tawag namin, what is the trade-off for wrongly labeling people as positive when in fact they are negative or vice versa. Okay. Any other question?
Ano pa po?